now our market is based in the townships, but we're also looking at people between middle to lower LSM groups, because already people with iPhones, they don't care about non-banking solutions because they're nice with doing stuff online. So right now we currently have access to over 200,000 locations in the townships where people can top up their wallet. And we also have online stores that accept our buttons. So when you pay online, you see the AIRBUY button, that's where we land. So in a nutshell, that's who we are. So yeah, we're really excited to be here. We caught a taxi to catch a plane to be here. So we're gonna make this thing happen.
Hi, my name's Jen Coetzee. I'm the Customer Experience and Brand Exec for RCS. We are predominantly store credit for the leading retailers in South Africa and Southern Africa, Namibia and Botswana. I think the thing about store credit is that it really is the young person's first port of call in credit. So we're very curious about inclusion, how to make it easier, how to make credit more accessible for all the right reasons. So we're very proud to partner up with LevelUp and to play a role in the narrative on how we make the circle bigger.
Hi everyone. Can you guys hear me? Hi everyone. My name is Njabulo Makhathini, co-founder of AIRBUY as well. As he mentioned, we were on the same taxi coming here. Without really duplicating much, I think I'll just make some add-ons. I think everyone is sort of, especially in these circles, tired of hearing about payments or payment options and stuff like that. But I think we've crafted a niche for us because we knew there were people like ourselves who still are not comfortable with the available options, and using the mobile money and enable them to pay online using their phone numbers became a very interesting niche. And we've been growing since then. And adding on to what Sapang has said, we are now taking our mobile wallets and growing to people's needs. Now every startup wish to get to a point where they're driven by the market to say, okay, now I have my wallet. Yes, I can buy online, but what else can I do with this wallet that I have? So we're going to be introducing some very exciting products and very exciting partnerships from the growth of what we do. So thank you very much for the invite.
Hi everyone, I'm Colleen Harrison and I'm the head of marketing at Payfast. Payfast, as some of you might know, is a payment facilitator. So what we do, we enable payments moving from merchants to from buyers to merchants rather. And Payfast was founded in 2007 with a vision to democratize e-commerce in South Africa. And back then it was quite difficult to get online. So when you look at financial inclusion, the first problem that Payfast sought to solve when we started was really to make it accessible, make financial services such as receiving payments online, making it accessible to pretty much anyone. So removing the friction, enabling individuals, small businesses, startups to accept payments. And up until that point in time, you actually needed a merchant bank account with a bank, and you needed to have 3 months of sales history. So there were a lot of barriers to entry to transact online, which Payfast then managed to remove.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to ask you each a question, but it's the same question for all 5 of you. Is, because we're talking of financial inclusion today, how do you, number one, this is always good, how do you personally define financial inclusion? And then secondly, what is the strategic initiative that you're having in the organizations? So the 2 guys in the taxi probably talk strategically on the way here. What they failed to mention, they were on the same flight as well as Kerryn this morning as well. So there's a whole collaboration of travel. But why does financial inclusion hog the airwaves of the executive teams in your organization? And we'll start with Colleen, because she's actually half answered the question already. So you've got to add your personal flavor there, Colleen, working backwards.
So something that obviously occupies us is that e-commerce is still, it's still quite small in South Africa. So 4% of all retail sales are made online. And that's quite small compared to more developed markets. So China takes the lead. More than half of all retail sales are going to be online in 2022. And other markets like the US and the UK, we're looking at about 16 to 20% of retail sales being made online. So we can see that there's a huge gap between South Africa and some of the other markets. And we're trying to obviously understand how do we bridge that gap? How can we get more people transacting online? So some of the things that we would look at is how do we unlock, especially the informal sector? How do we onboard them to make online purchases? What are those challenges? Is it fulfillment? Is it logistics? Is it financial literacy? Is it that perhaps the products that they're looking for aren't available online? So for example, we know that almost half of all transactions are still in cash in South Africa, even though we've got really good smartphone penetration, which is at about 79%, and 84% of all South Africans have a bank account. So we've actually got the tools to unlock all these financial services, but we're still very cash-based as a society.
Thanks. We're going to get back to that shortly because I think that leads into the usage question mark around financial inclusion, theoretical versus practical. Thanks, Colleen. Njabulo.
I think for us, our perspective has really been interesting. So what makes the whole discussion tricky for the continent, the country that we're living in compared to other countries in the continent is, as we all know, in South Africa, we live in different markets that are a freeway away from each other, right? There is this kind of environment that we're in, then there's Gugulethu across the road, right? There is, in Joburg, there's a Sandton, and then one off-ramp down the road, there's Alexandra. Two different worlds. And I think those are the biggest contributors to this dialogue being an ongoing dialogue and it being a situation that can never be solved by one kind of situation, right? With that said, I think what became quite precedent was who holds the pen, right? Because every time we innovate, what do we use? We use data that has been written by a certain pen. But now the question is, who holds the pen? And from our experience as startups, as young entrepreneurs with Tepang, growing into the space, we've always been told about, these are the places where you can go to get the stats, get the data and everything else. Started using that, but from time to time, when we compared that with the realities, when we are in the townships, when we are in the different environments, that's where we started questioning things. And I think that's when the most light bulb moments happened. Because it's quite different if someone who holds that pen is sitting comfortably in the opposite side of the market. So what always works for us is to be in those markets, to always exist in those markets. We love Cape Town. I mean, we've always talked about opportunities would be better if we would move to these part of the city. But we can also not properly exist fully if we disconnect ourselves to the ground. And I think those kind of important factors play a huge role in terms of what we are seeing right now into the country. Because everyone knows from the stats and everything that you read, South Africa is properly infrastructured compared to other places in the continent. Banked, we are 95 or 92% being banked. So from an aerial view, it's easy to assume that South Africa is sorted. There's no payment innovation needed because banks are everywhere. Banks are able to allow people to do everything. But when you go to the day-to-day lives of people, that's where you see the disconnect. That's where you see in between the lines. The fact that for someone in the township or in the rural areas, they firstly need to walk 10 Ks to a mall to withdraw money, walk again, another 10K again, go to the taxi, which currently, after so many years, the only option to pay is cash. That alone gives you very, very interesting data. So for us, that's the caps that we wear whenever we attend these solutions. We always try to be on the ground as much as possible, try to engage people much as possible. Another reality is the fact that the market that we are existing in, which is the ordinary South Africans, the middle to the lower LSM in the township cities and the rurals, are the toughest market, right? They're the most trickiest market because you need to spend a lot of time to what the people need.
Awesome, thanks. Jen?
Yeah, just taking from what Njabulo is saying, it's about bridging the divide between, banking, regulation, the rule set, and the reality in the market. And I think that's what we're all curious about and how to really how to do a better job. You know, credit is, in our space, gives two things to the customer. The one is access to the goods and services that they want and need, and the other is access or a foundation to their future credit score and other products and services that they may need. So it has a longer lifespan than just what they want and need today. And I think the question is, how do you make the right call in the credit decisioning? And we know that sometimes we make the wrong call, and sometimes we make the right call, and we'd like to make the right call more often.
Simon?
For us, like Njabulo said, we're always there in the spaces, what's happening, you know. When we started, we were like, yeah, everyone has a website. They'll download our API. It's cool. And then we only found out, yeah, there's a few websites. So where are people selling? They're selling on Facebook. They're selling on WhatsApp. So we're like, oh, okay, let's augment our technology to work on these social media platforms. So we developed a link so that people can check out online. So we always have a mantra in the office. We say, Asimo State, you know, like this is not USA. You have to go there in the streets and make it happen. You know, so for us, it's always looking at what is the customer doing, where are they buying, where are they? So we always follow the customer because you can't get answers from KPMG studies. You have to be there on the ground. So yeah, the lesson is you have to be there to make this financial inclusion work, you know? So yeah.
Kerryn?
Okay, I think what financial inclusion means to us at Efficacy is the ability to give everyone the capability to pay and get paid. So whether you are a merchant or a customer, you must be able to pay. And I think the reason why no one has actually solved this conundrum in South Africa yet is because we are all operating in complete isolation of one another. So we've got someone over here working on a payment platform, we've got someone over there working on a payment platform, and everyone's trying to solve the financial inclusion problem, but they're all doing it independently. So I think for us to win as a country, we need to collaborate. And I know that we were on the same plane, and we have been talking, but I've only met these guys today. But funny enough, we have been collaborating with them anyway, but I only met them today. But I think that's how we're going to do it, is that if we work together and we find solutions that are interoperable, because we can't have these solutions that are just standalone. We can have mobile money wallets, we can have bank accounts, we can have whatever, and everyone can bring their products to market, but they need to be able to talk to one another so that everyone can get involved and use them to the best, whatever they were created for. And I think that will go a long way to solving the problem, but we need to work together.
Thanks, Kerryn. Thanks, everyone. I think the most important thing about financial inclusion, and I do get into trouble when I say this, I've got a corporate background. Maybe it's the banks that are financially excluded, and financial inclusion should be taking them into consideration. Sorry, banks. Because we think you touched on it here now as well. What happens in the township economies is significant. People survive day by day. They're unbanked, they get access to something, a stokvel or whatever the story is. And there's this huge big, we can sit here and make up strategic initiatives and see how it works. But the reality is, like AIRBUY is saying, is that things happen on the ground. So there's that understanding that happens, and there's a community that works together. So that collaboration and the breaking of barriers is fundamentally important, because as we know in the fintech space, generally, who's in fintech, by the way? Okay, any non-fintechs? Okay, good. It's a relief. We've got to break down the vertical barriers.
Yeah.
Because you've got payments and credit and ID and payments and security, and they've got that horizontal flow that comes across multiple parties to collaborate, I think is the way to go. So my next question to the panel, I'm going to start with you, Jen, is having a look at what are the customer behavior changes that you've seen in the credit space in particular that is coming to fruition, which highlights the opportunity from a credit provision perspective. And then obviously for each of you, touch on the payment space and all those, because why I want to get an understanding of that from an inclusion perspective is tech going to solve for that problem, which will be the next part conversation. Jen.
So I think two trends. The one is that a couple of years ago, I think customers shunned credit. There was more of a fear factor or a grudge factor and customers saying, I don't want credit. Credit providers are bad. And I think that's moving now towards credit is a necessity. How and who is going to help me manage it correctly? And the second is the speed at which they're moving towards different means of getting and paying money. So moving out of credit entirely, but just the platforms, the ways to buy and pay, and that's across the board. It's not at a niche level. And I think, coming to your point, Kerryn, I think there is a lot of scope for collaboration. I think there's a lot of space for all players because customers have got different needs and different preferences in how they get, pay, and manage their money.
Kerryn, do you want to take over then?
I think what we've seen is that since COVID, and I hate to mention it, but the transition into the digital world has become a trend. I mean, it was almost forced into that way. And the access to, these community platforms with Wi-Fi in the communities, that is definitely becoming an enabler for us to take our products to market. And it's a trend as it's growing that we'll be able to get our products closer and closer to the last mile and take it down, to the people that we intend to do it, to take our products to. And I think the smartphone penetration is also definitely something which is going to assist us in getting our markets and getting the greater population financially included, because it gives us a platform, both from the rails to actually deliver the products that we've got and to get that to the customers.
Colleen, do you want to add to that?
Interesting trends that we've picked up is that over the years, credit card transactions on our gateway have declined, actually, because we've got now alternative payment methods. So there's a lot more options for people when they check out. And I know we're going to probably discuss access and usage, but people have actually, with the pandemic, adopted alternative payment methods. Yeah. So we do see an increase in usage in these alternatives. We've also introduced quite a few different ones in the last couple of years. So when we talk about partnerships and how we can all work together and collaborate to nurture and foster financial inclusion, for example, we offer RCS store cards obviously on our gateway so that people can check out online with their RCS credit instead of a traditional bank credit card. We've also partnered with Time Bank, who have a More Time product, which is like a buy now, pay later, where you can pay off purchases with your everyday Time Bank account. So again, not a need for a credit card there. So we can see that this is definitely driving some consumer, changes in consumer behavior and how people shop and check out.
Thanks. Sapang.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. For us, it's always like people will do things that are easy. So for us, we're always making it easy for our customer. We are where they are, So when it comes to topping up your wallet, when our customer goes and buys bread, they can top up their AIRBUY wallet, So a lot of solutions that are becoming popular are popular because they're easy to use. Stuff like e-wallet, you just send them money, cash out, easy. It's not like rocket science, So people are moving to things that are more convenient, more easy. You've got guys like Ozo, where they've made it easy to just pay online with your bank account, So for us, customer convenience is number one to make life easy, because we see that's where they're going anyway. We're not gonna come with some rocket science, what there. No, we're not there. We're like, okay, what are you doing? Okay, we are there. So for us, it's all about convenience, making it happen, making it easy.
Want to add to that, Njabulo?
Certainly, just adding exactly on what Tsepang is mentioning. That's usually just the spirit in the office, simplified from a jargon level, especially because we know our people that we're building this product for, I think sometimes us as tech founders, we get lost in the novelty of the technology that is now available, and as well as the jargon. Tech is a very bougie industry, in terms of how we do things, or as founder perceive the market. But we're simplifying it for people, and every day we just try to find a way to simplify it. I mean, even just from an industry perspective, what the township proverb that Bank just mentioned, the Asimo State, it simply means this is not Silicon Valley, this is not the States, pretty much. And why that becomes important for us. Remember, this culture, we sort of adopted this culture from your Silicon Valley. So sometimes as tech founders, we get caught up and think, yeah, people are ready for crypto, they're ready to pay using crypto, and you just rush to these things, right? But one thing that we've learned with building for Africa, Africa is always going to interpret whatever is being brought to Africa in its own ways. Don't think that Africa will just take crypto as it has within the US and the FXTs and stuff like that. But with that is, for example, it's easy to overlook WhatsApp to be like, yeah, but these guys are using this because they don't have this. Then you rush to build online stores for them. No, they're comfortable with using WhatsApp. So you are the one who needs to come to their playground and help them build this thing better. We've done all of those things. We've given out online stores for free. Okay, these guys, there's a lack in online stores. We've built online stores for free for people. 3 months later, that person is struggling just to maintain it, or they're just not seeing traffic. It's just a new world for them, And so for us, it's always important to go where the people are and actually customize it to what simply makes sense for them. Because for them, that's their online store. That's their digital platform. And you'd be quite surprised when you do your research how much people are making on your Facebook platforms, selling weaves on your WhatsApp platforms. It's very quite interesting.
I think all of you have touched on something very interesting, is that there's a comfort with what you know, a convenience factor, a simplification factor. And I think with the fintech space, there's so many choices out there. So leading to that, how have you seen, let's just start with, how have you seen customer behavior change recently, pre-COVID, post-COVID, the technologies that they're adopting? And then for the ladies, how are you seeing the B2B2C model working? Because all of you three are engaging directly with the merchant and the client and the retailer and the retailers, that sort of space as well, because that's something that also need to take in consideration. This is just about an individual making a choice. This is also about companies partnering with them based on what the consumers want at the same time. So it's a bit of a long question, but I will start with Colleen.
I'll kick off with pre-post-COVID. So the biggest change that we saw during lockdown and post-COVID is we had phenomenal growth of contactless payments. So these would be apps, your app payments that Zapper and SnapScan. So we offer those online as well. And obviously, because a lot of people got used to paying contactless rather than wanting to touch the keypad, that also translated into the online space. So we saw that increase there, but really significant. So we do see people adopting these new payment methods. And just talking from personal experience, it's a story that I've told quite often, but we've been able to tap our card on a credit card machine for years, and nobody did it. And we were forced into it through COVID. All of a sudden, everybody was doing it. We see people doing it, and now who still inserts their credit card? But that technology isn't new. It wasn't brought about by COVID. And I then, virtual cards. I love my virtual cards, so I often leave my house without my wallet entirely, and I can't wait for digital IDs and digital driver's licenses, because then I can just forget about it. It's all on my phone or on my smartwatch, and I literally, when I check out at a retail store, I just tap my watch. So, and again, that wasn't brand new technology. I was kind of forced into it also through COVID. I was experimenting and trying it out. And once you've tried it, you only have to try it once. You only have to do it once. You only have to tap your card once, or your smartwatch or your phone once with your virtual card, and you'll see the convenience and you'll be converted. So I think what we need to consider is how do we break that mold of what you're used to and go, just try it once. So just try purchasing your groceries online and having them delivered once. Because there are definitely in the informal sector also benefits to that, where you've got access to a wider product range, which means you've got access to more retailers, so you can actually shop by price and do price comparison, which if you are always paying in cash and going to spaza shops or wherever you're able to go, you have limited selection. So so I think that's something that we really need to consider: is how do we get people to just lockdown force us all to do new things. What can we do to educate the market to adopt those new technologies?
Thanks. Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of started to touch on it in the previous question, but I think what we're also seeing post-COVID is how much more do we know about our customers, and how is that informing how we are speaking to our customers, identifying what they need, and how we personalize our offers to them. And that goes across the board, whether we're talking about the credit offer we make, whether we are introducing them to retail offers, whether we're talking about their communication preferences. It all has to do with, what do you know about me? And I think that the consumer is more and more demanding closer contact with the companies that they engage with.
Because of that, because the customers are more demanding and they're expecting products to be found closer to home, from a B2B perspective, for us taking product into the retailers, they've been more accepting of different ideas, new financial services products being offered in retail, as opposed to financial services products used to be handled only by the banks, and it used to be almost untouchable over there. You had a banker, a bank. That's where it was, the office was there, and that was it. And now people are used to having financial services offered to them anywhere, from the street corner to the retailer. They can go and do their bread and milk shopping, but they can also do their financial services at the same time. And it's almost expected. So if you as a retailer, for example, don't offer financial services in today's age, it's almost like a thing that doesn't happen anymore. So for us as a fintech enabler, to be able to take product into those environments and to be able to say, how about this? This is innovative, this is new. I think it's becoming easier for us as fintech partners to be able to provide products and services into the retail environment.
Njabulo?
So for us, interestingly enough, COVID was a deal breaker, if I can use that word. It was a do or die situation, because I think we officially rolled out in 2019. So interestingly enough, as everyone on this panel, anyone who is playing in the digital space were forced to prove how effective their solutions were. And us being a new guys getting into the game, it was quite sensitive, because we had to, everything we've been preaching about, us saying that there is this market, there is a portion of South Africans and Africans who would prefer this solution, who would prefer not to use cards when paying and stuff like that. All of that was put to the test. And it was interesting in terms of the findings that we got from the MVP that we had with a small group of merchants that we started our pilot with. And what was interesting was the fact that people who were forced to e-commerce, obviously due to lockdown level 5, who were trying out buying online for the first time, those are the numbers that we grew in. People who would get onto the platform, see the payment options, and then see our blue button there, and then underneath our button, see the indication there, a small caption there that says, buy without your banking details. People were comfortable enough to trust that devil, even though we didn't have much marketing out there and much knowledge about the product. And the steps back in the days, they were quite long, you know what I mean? It was an MVP. People had to go and make a deposit to top up their wallet, come back, and think it was not as advanced as the technology is right now. So for people to go through all that process to make it happen, I think it ticked a lot of boxes. And I think what has been interesting in the market is the fact that I think everyone who was talking within the space thought if people, after COVID, life would just completely be digital for also the market that we're catering for. But we're still seeing most of them, as stats show, them going back to their old patterns of bricks and mortar and everything of that sort. So for us, it was quite an interesting period of time. There were a lot of learnings to be made. And I think that's what taught us to be quite attentive to what the market needs and how to play a role in terms of growing it.
Cool, thanks. Sabang?
Njabulo answered, everything. Guys, just sign up, AIRBUY.Africa. Check us out.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to ask each of the panelists just one more long leading question. I'd just like you to tell me, in your opinions, where you think the greatest opportunity is for or let's say tech, because you're quite right, it is retail merges into financial services, merges into health, merges into, the whole shebang. What is the greatest opportunity sitting here today that we have to engage tech to enhance financial inclusion? What is the biggest challenge around that opportunity, and how do you think we should solve it collaboratively? I know that's not in the prepared questions, but I told you I'd be slightly different. So we'll start with Sapang, because you said that you answered the shortest. Then we're going to go to Njabulo, then we go to Kerryn, then we go to Colleen, we're going to finish it with Jen. We're going up in size.
For me, it's about what are you doing. Play a role, but you have to be conscious of who are the other guys within the ecosystem that you can work with together. Because this thing of working in silos is not going to help the end customer. The biggest opportunity is within the end customer, the retail space. It's things that are considered to be low value payments, 500 there, 200, 1,000. Those small transactions add up a lot, and a majority of our population in South Africa, they're in that space, So those are the key indicators of saying, hey, it's small money, but there's a lot of people there. And as AIRBUY, who can I work with? Oh, here's Efficacy Pay, Efficacy Pay. Efficacy Pay, they can help us here. Payfast, help us here, So it's about realizing where are you and working with people who are there and also knowing where's the action happening. So, yeah.
I think what's quite interesting, adding to what Sapang is saying, where the opportunity lies is, I guess, the unbanked and the underbanked. That goes without saying, because that's the majority of the country, that's the majority of the continent. They are the ones that their situation is not properly structured for them. I think everyone else is able to finish their day without using cash, right? They finish a month. There's people who haven't seen notes and coins in months right now, right? But there's a big opportunity with a lot of benefits to unlock the middle and the lower LSM group, the ordinary people of South Africa. What stands in the way for that currently is the competition between the competition culture by large entities. I'm talking about the big 5 banks or the 10 banks, insurance companies and stuff like that. Also, one is competition amongst themselves and also seeing us as competition in terms of the digital players and stuff like that. Because, for example, that's why accessing certain licenses that would make our solutions better take long. For example, I'll give you a simple example. We've been trying to get a certain license that would benefit not only us, but the banks themselves, but we've been struggling a lot. Then coming back to the last question, in terms of how can we mitigate that, it's just collaborating amongst ourselves, because I think people around this room understand the new way of doing technology. They understand that in the space that we're playing, there's not much competition, but a lot of opportunities to collaborate, right? For the fact that payments as a whole, I can certainly stack with Payfast, stack with the RCS, and then have efficiency payment covering our regulations. It shows the room for collaborations. I mean, across the continent, that's what's happening. And I think that's the biggest opportunity that we can do. We've written off banks in terms of trying to collaborate with them. We've had meetings with all of them, and now we reached out to a startup, and now they're helping us to do things. So I think the best solution for that is for us to connect the dots within our country and the continent just by the startup culture, people who understand the ecosystem, people who understand the new way of doing, of building these solutions.
Yeah, I agree with you, Njabulo. I think that from our perspective, that in order for us to tap into this market and take financial included products to everyone, we have to change, we have to get better and faster at changing the regulations. For us, the regulatory environment is really debilitating at times because it takes so long to launch new products and innovative ideas. And we have to be able to take proof of concepts and run with the ideas and be able to test and learn as we're going along. Because if we don't do that, we're not going to get to the people that need the product. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is we need to find a way of competing with cash at a pricing level. Because until we do that, we're not going to be able to take products. We need to be able to pay with card or whatever it is, but just in small micro payments. And unless we can find a way to price that correctly and get scale, we aren't going to solve the problem. Because we are always going to be competing with cash, but until we're able to take away the challenge of being able to pay, and everyone can pay one another quite easily in micro amounts, without that being an inhibitor of the amount that it's going to cost to pay to make that payment, we won't be able to solve the problem.
I'm not convinced the private sector on its own can solve the challenges that we're facing. So I think if you look at financial inclusion, we still have huge issues with digital inclusion. So we need the right infrastructure, access to data. That will definitely help unlock tech and fintech solutions for a wider audience in South Africa, where people cannot participate in the technologies that maybe we're exposed to here because they just don't have access to the right infrastructure. And that also comes down to, for example, if you look at online retail, it comes down to fulfillment and logistics. We've got particular challenges in South Africa that you don't have overseas. But I also agree that people need to collaborate more closely together, and that we see a lot of movements overseas in terms of open banking, which hasn't really come yet to South Africa in the same way. And that once the Big Four, the Big Five get together and also collaborate with the tech and fintech companies, then we can really make a big impact.
Jane?
Yeah, and it's just really interesting to hear the different perspectives. It makes it really an exciting opportunity. So there are lots of thoughts. I mean, I think at the base, we're all saying collaboration is key because it's about the insight that each player has to the customer and the customer's needs. It's all about data and how we can add layers of insight and data, but of course it's regulated. It's not a free-for-all. And maybe I'm leaning a little bit into my personal opinion here, but I think there's a very exciting play in what the blockchain tech brings to the world and financial inclusion, and that is this shift from the trust economy to the transparency economy. And I think to your point, when does cash become obsolete is when you can trust the tech. And so I think there is really exciting tech enablement, collaboration coming down the line. And I also like what Njabulo says about, Africa is never going to adopt what first world economies and companies and countries dish us. So I think it's quite an exciting space here.
Thanks, everyone. I'm just going to open up. Does anyone have questions in the audience? Anyone? Must be. Yeah. So just stand up, introduce yourself, look to the camera so they can film you.
Hi, my name's Craig. Work in Fintech, Senior Product Manager. You mentioned collaboration quite a few times. I was just curious if any of you are currently or hoping to collaborate with Moya app and Moya Pay, given, particularly from a financial inclusion and exclusion perspective, they seem to be making really good progress in that space. So is that something you actively in your roadmaps at the moment?
Yeah.
Certainly.
Anyone?
So, I think, from our perspective, one of our companies that's within our product suite of companies, if we can say the group, is provides the back-end wallet for the Moya Pay. And I think what Moya Pay has got right is the instant messaging platform and the number of customers that they've managed to get on the platform. And now it's about taking the tech and actually utilizing what they've got and actually taking advantage of the base, because it's easy to get customers on, which they've now got, and now it's about taking the products, be it the payment wallet, which I think might compete in some of the spaces of the team here today, or any of the other products that the super app provide, and actually now making those solutions available and getting customers to use it. Because it's about activity that you actually need to make a success of a product. It's one thing having a product, but getting it successful and active is something else. So,
Thanks. Anyone else?
I think we've been following what the Moya platform has been doing, and we've been having it on our roadmap to do a couple of collaborations, because I think you guys have grown a very exciting audience and stuff, and it's about how you guys can enable your consumers to do more using the platform. So we'll be definitely doing coffee soon.
Yeah, I've got to get my steps in as we go to the back here.
Thank you. Very insightful. I just want to remark that my name is Andres Perez, and I am the Director of Fintech Association of South Africa. So just to remark, I think the battle is not between banks, fintechs, and regulators. The battle is against cash, where we lately have seen a lot of partnership with the banks. It's just a little bit difficult to navigate the regulatory side, the banking side, the fintech side. Sometimes the fintechs don't understand the banks, and the banks don't understand the fintechs. In regards to macro payments, I don't know if you guys know that there is something called RPP or PaySharp, which is essentially evolution of payments in South Africa with the new implementation of the ISO 20022 for the fintechs here. Have you guys started implementing or looking to PaySharp as a new payment of method for your micropayments? Because essentially, it's going to be aiding financial inclusion. The problem is not financial inclusion, but financial literacy, where the user doesn't understand how to use a bank account. So something native like using their cell phone number to send money might seem a lot easier than use a bank account.
Yeah, so with us, we're always looking what's happening, where are things going, you know. So we reached out to guys like from BankServe, and they gave us the whole lowdown. This is RPP, what. So yeah, we're also in chats of how can AIRBUY play a part in this system, ecosystem, you know. So yeah, we are there in the calls there.
Yeah, I think from our perspective is that currently RPP is only available to the banks, and only the big banks have got access to the RPP API. We would love to be able to, as a fintech, be able to get access to that, because once again, only if we all play together and everyone is interoperable will we be able to win this game. And I think as soon as that happens, we'll be the first to put our hand up to say, please, could we have access to the specs? Because that is going to be the thing that makes the wallets interoperable with the bank accounts, interoperable with the card world, and literally whether you pay with a cell phone number or you pay with an email address or whatever that proxy is in the database, that is where we're all going to win. It doesn't matter what the source is behind the funds that is going to be able to be paid. If we can all participate in that one ecosystem, then that will win the game for us, I think, as South Africans.
Hello, John Bradshaw. Also have a PaySharp question. I used to be with the retailer, and so I guess my angle on the whole RPP and PaySharp is there is an enormous tax on South African business, which is the interchange fee. Most South African businesses pay 2% more to accept payment from customers than they would, even more for digital payments because it's card not present. So I think this is a watershed moment for South Africa, that the banks are either going to grab hold of PaySharp and every business is going to have another 2% to play with, which I think most of them will give to the customer. So there's going to be this huge flow. or the banks are going to fail to take the opportunity, and it's going to be up to you guys
Yeah.
to work out how you get hold of the RPP rails and grab hold of it. But I think that it's digital inclusion, but I think the merchants have sat there for 40 years effectively overpaying interchange fees because of the card rails and how expensive they are. And really from March next year, you have the ability for a whole range of things to come in. So it was going to be a question, but you got there first with the question. So I just wanted to make this, when you're talking about digital inclusion, there is this huge weight of value that currently is paid by retailers to Visa, MasterCard, and banks that's able for you to unlock if you can work out how to get PayShop right in this frictionless way that you're looking to do.
Agreed.
Steve's got a question.
Hi guys,
Yeah, can hear you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, Steve.
Okay, so I suppose the question for me relates to the inclusion, the financial inclusion piece of this. So it seems to me that from the payment side, you need businesses to want to adopt new types of technologies so that they will encourage their shoppers or the individuals to actually use the new technologies, to pay them, etc. So it's a bit of that kind of old card conundrum of the issuer, acquirer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I wondered what are the real drivers that are going to make that happen from an inclusion point of view, going to make that happen? So what's in it for the individual to adopt the new ways to do stuff rather than cash, and what's in it for the businesses to adopt the new ways and to encourage their shoppers to adopt the new ways? Why should they do this?
Certainly. I think it's a very interesting question, and I guess every startup that is playing in this space, before they do anything, that's the question that they can answer, because almost everything can be done, whether from using the latest technology or using anything, but it's a topic around value, right? It's creating value for the person on the ground, the user, the customer, and also being able to go to the merchant and say, look, we have created a value for so many people, and you're gonna miss out, you're gonna miss a large piece of the pie if you do not enable these people to come through using our technology to get to that point. And I think for us, it's been just focusing on, because I think what's been interesting for us as a startup who maybe not coming from a retail background or a banking background, or it's easier when you build a startup and you come with like your easy network of some sort. We were just students who thought it was going to be easy to get into this space. So we, if anything, have to have been smashing a lot of walls because of trying to convince this merchant to say, you're going to see value when you do this, right? Until we got to a point where we understood that we would need to get the audience to understand, so that the audience is the one that pushes the demand to this merchant to have this button. And that's what's been happening lately and adding on to the growth lately. And that's how we were able to move from the small and medium guys all the way to now that we're signing up these big retailers and big merchants. But that's the importance of it, because merchants don't want to, it takes a lot for merchants to consider integration and everything of that sort. But once the people have spoken, then everything else becomes easy.
We have a question from our LinkedIn audience, and I'm just going to read it. It's from Anissa Tron. She's asking, what could and should we be doing around the education of new technologies amongst underserved, unbanked communities?
I'll just speak to, from a B2B point of view, I'll speak to what we've been doing is, first of all, I love all that field work that you're doing. I think it's so important that you aren't just looking at, like you said, KPMG reports and all the research, that you're actually in there in the trenches. So from a B2B point of view, what we've been doing is sponsoring quite a few mentorship programs to really go into Khayelitsha and try and, what do you call it? Can't think of the word now, but try and inspire people to start a business, to try something new, to participate in the economy. So I think there's a lot where the private sector and corporates can get involved in just having a lot of programs with, for example, from a developer point of view, we've also been involved with Girl Code, who teach young girls how to code. So there's quite a few things that we can do in terms of going into the, into the actual, meet the people where they're at and educate them one-on-one. So I think that's quite important that it is also in person.
From an education perspective, we mustn't underestimate the ability of social media to be able to utilize that as a platform to take new and innovative products to the people. I think, whether it was Facebook for friends and whatever, and we've got LinkedIn for business, and we've got all these platforms that are, historically, specifically for certain things. We need to put that mindset aside and go, let's use these platforms because they are available and the majority of people in South Africa are using them in some form or another, and use them from an education perspective to take these innovative products, down to the market. And I think just one last thing I want to say is that we like to partner with people and brands who are in the market and who understand it. For us to sit, here in the centre of Cape Town and go like, oh, well, here's a product, and hope that it's going to be successful or not. We actually need to trust the brands and the people who are there and can distribute on behalf of. And that again leads to the partnership. Find partners and people who you trust and who are trusted in the place where you're trying to take your products to. And I think that will be valuable.
The final point on that is what you said, Tsepeng, was make it easy. Yeah. You don't actually have to educate anybody if it's in your hand and it's easy to use. Yeah.
Also for us, the education aspect is we've helped some of our merchants build their own online stores, and some of them, they think, it's 20,000 to build, but there's free tools to build things, so we're always informing our guys, hey, you can do this, you can do that, and it's stuff that's beneficial to them because there's so much to learn. You don't want to give people exam pads or open exam pads of useless stuff. So people, they want to sell and out. So give them what they want and finish.
Right, that one. We'll give you what you want and go back to work, and now we're finished. Just want to thank all 5 of you so very much for participating today, sharing your ideas and thoughts. This is a topic that you can't do it justice in an hour and a few minutes. But there is definitely lots of room and opportunity to expand on this. So I encourage you to reach out to our panelists, have a chat to them, talk about the different scenarios. And once again, thanks to Innovation City for hosting us. Thanks to all those who've been online. I hope the sound's been good. And we're just going to finish off very quickly with a Bev gift. Or gift from Bev.
Thank you.
We have produced a short case study on the collaboration between RCS, Payfast, I had to think before I said that, and LevelUp's Innovation Studio, which we use to accelerate innovation. We now have permission, I think, to share that publicly, I believe. We'll be posting that on the LevelUp website soon, so please have a look at that. Go and have a read, and if you're interested in doing the same type of collaboration or a new one, or you have a cool idea and want to play, then get in touch with us.
Cool.
There we go. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So lucky to meet you guys. Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great.
messages.